Welcome back to the Andrew and Ian Show. I'm Andrew Surrock here again with Ian. Hi, Ian. How you doing this weekend? First weekend of college football. It was exciting. There was a lot of interesting things that happened. But how you doing this evening, man?
Doing really well. I'd really love to say it, but we're 2 days from NFL season, so getting really excited.
Yeah, that we are. That's going to be really, really exciting. So first, before we get into our weekend review, we're gonna go over some tragic news that occurred over the weekend. Johnny Gaudreau was unfortunately killed this past weekend. Was hit by a drunk driver Thursday night while he was riding his bicycle with his brother. Both of them pronounced dead at the scene. Just absolutely terrible. And it was the night before their sister's wedding that they were both supposed to be standing up in, and obviously that the wedding was canceled or postponed, I should say. Obviously, just yeah, terrible, terrible situation. You know, Johnny was, he wasn't known to be, the best, player in the league, but he certainly brought a lot of skill, especially for being an undersized player, sitting at 5'9". He definitely brought a lot of skill that a lot of players when he was first drafted didn't really have. So um, he kind of paved the way, I guess, in a way to show that smaller players can definitely do some great things in the NHL, and it's just a shame, what happened here.
Yeah, it's you said it. It's just a shame, between, what we've had happening in the NFL with all of the athletes being in drunk driving accidents and now seeing the toll happen to an athlete themselves, just in the NHL. It's never a good thing, when someone that young passes and in such a, reckless and unnecessary way. You know, it's just it's shitty. That's the only way to really put it. Just a really unnecessary loss of life that could have been avoided.
Yeah, very very easily could have been avoided. It's just unfortunate. You feel bad, especially for both Johnny and Matthew's wives and their children. They were, I mean, obviously husbands and fathers first and foremost before they were both hockey players, and yeah, it's just a shame that things like this still happen, especially when you have things like Uber and Lyft that can you know take you where you need to be if you've been drinking, so yeah, easily, like you said, avoidable, but yeah, just um, you know unfortunate situation. How it's going to work out for Columbus now without him, I mean, that's obviously a roster spot. Unfortunately, a roster spot, opened up. You don't want to have a roster spot opened up for that sort of a reason. And then in terms of salary goes, I don't know what's going to happen with that. Um, I've seen some things float around like the team might just donate all that money to their families. But I don't know how that's going to work out with the cap situation either. So it's very muddied waters, and we don't really want to talk too much about it because it takes away from what actually happened. But just really unfortunate that this all happened. And like you said, easily something that could have been avoided. Um, but that said, we're gonna move on here now to the weekend. Lots of surprising things happened this weekend, of course, in the world of college football. So let's just get right into it here. Let's start with Georgia and Clemson. In Atlanta, neutral field, uh, de facto home game for Georgia, obviously, with it being in Georgia still. So not truly a neutral field site, I guess you could say. But Georgia wins 34-3. Georgia, they look good. They didn't look, elite. The defense looked good. Offensively, there's, some question marks, but I think the biggest thing for Georgia is, obviously ETN had a team suspension for his situation there. He was dressed for the game, but he didn't play, obviously, and we don't know if he's even going to be playing next week yet. They were saying on the broadcast, but Frazier, he might not be the true number two anymore. Just because he looked really really good. 11 carries, 83 yards, a touchdown. Carson Beck looked pretty solid. 23 for 33, two touchdowns and just a hair over 275 yards. Clemson just did not look good. The first half, they looked pretty solid, but the teams looked fairly close in the first half. I mean, we went into halftime with a 6-0 lead for Georgia, and then Georgia opened up with a touchdown, and from there it just kind of spiraled out of control for Clemson, who did not look good at all.
Yeah, I think you said it best there. Clemson, this was not their best showing. And granted, we've been saying it pretty much in every single thing we've been talking about Georgia. This is the best team in the nation on paper, right? They've got that number one ranking for a reason. But, you're playing a top 15 team. Yes, again, it's still in Georgia, so it's pretty much a home game for them. But you lost by 31 points. That's embarrassing.
Yeah, and the thing is that as much as I hate the current state of football or college football with the transfer portal, Dabo's got to fucking get with the program here. I know he refuses to use it. And do you know who the other three schools, or three teams, I guess I should say, that don't use the portal are, by chance? Because there's 4 teams in college football that don't use it.
I have no idea.
It's the service academies, and that's because you have to be in one of those 3 branches to be able to play for that branch's team for college football. So Dabo's the only true college team that doesn't use the transfer portal, and it shows. And Nick Saban, as much as he said he doesn't like that situation, he had to adapt himself, and sometimes you nail it and sometimes you don't, and we'll get into that when we talk about some other teams here, because I want to go back to what Nick Saban said about it. But Dabo's got to start using the portal. I get, he hates it, and I understand because I hate it too, but it's just the reality of it, So, but yeah, Clemson getting depantsed by Georgia here. Penn State, they go into West Virginia, a pretty tough environment to play in. Rain delay for a couple hours, and they just absolutely wiped the floor with West Virginia. Penn State winning 34-12. They look good. They performed a lot better than I thought they would. Drew Aller looks like he might be legit. 11 for 17, 3 touchdowns. Nick Singleton looked absolutely phenomenal. 13 carries, 114 yards, and a touchdown. Just all out, just great game from Penn State. The offensive line looked good. The defense picked up right where they left off last year, despite losing all the talent that they did to the NFL. And they looked really, really good in this game. I know West Virginia is not, the best team, especially in their conference, but you go on the road into an environment like that, and you have a rain delay, and you come out of that rain delay after halftime, absolutely on fire, and you do the things that they did in that second half. That's very impressive.
Yeah, I mean, coming out like that after a rain delay, neither team scored in the first quarter, but they put up 20 points in that third quarter. And I mean, Drew Aller had the 3 touchdown passes. Harrison Wallace, the third, had 2 of them on 5 receptions for 117 yards. So they were cooking through the air after a rain delay. And even, like you said, Nick Singleton, 13 carries, 114 yards. So that's two skill players they had over 100 yards after a rain delay, and your quarterback threw for over 200 yards with 3 touchdowns. That's a hell of a performance out there.
Yeah, great performance. They surprised me. I don't think Drew Aller's still all that great, but he looked a lot better than he did in any game last year. So yeah, very, very impressive. Iowa hosted Illinois State, and their offense actually looked legitimate. they win 40-0 in this one. Obviously, Illinois State, not a very well known program, but Cade McNamara, 21 for 31, 250 yards, 3 touchdowns. Just looked really good. Caleb Johnson on the ground as well. Had a really good day, 11 carries, 119 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Yeah, I mean, the defense looked good. Again, they weren't playing, an elite offense or anything, so we don't truly know what they look like. But the offense did look good, and that's the first time Iowa scored 40 points in a very, very long time.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you pitch a shutout in any game, in my eyes, it's, okay, the defense is pretty good. They're there. Because at some point you think, yeah, they're going to take out starters, but if the other team doesn't and they're still down, 40-0, and they're still trying to score points, and you still don't give any points up with your second and third stringers in, that really does give them some credit. But like you said, it's not, an SEC team. It's not, a Power Four team. But again, 40-0. It's been a while since we've seen Iowa, put up 40 points, let alone win by 40. But so who knows? Maybe look out. Maybe Iowa might steal a playoff spot. But after one game, maybe that's going too far.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't, I don't put too much stock into week one except for, maybe that Georgia and Clemson game. And by the way, back to Georgia Clemson real quick, that was not Georgia's best stuff either. That was like a B- game from them. So it's only going to get better for Georgia, by the way. But moving on here, number 15 Tennessee hosted Chattanooga, winning 69, nice, to 3. The offense looked good. Defense obviously played very, very well. I'm a level through for 22 for 28, 314 yards, 3 touchdowns. Sampson, 12 carries, 124 yards, 3 touchdowns as well. He looked absolutely phenomenal on the ground. Again, Chattanooga, not, a good team by any means. It is a FCS school, but Tennessee looking solid. Again, I don't put too much stock in these teams when they play FCS schools or really bad, group of 5 schools, but Tennessee at least starting the season off on the right foot, looking good.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you see almost 70 points on the scoreboard, you know you had a good game on offense, or reasonably good game on offense if there is defensive touchdowns. But by the looks of it, you had 3 touchdowns through the air and at least 3 on the ground from just Sampson alone. This game was over in the first half. They scored 24 in the first quarter, and I mean, granted, Chattanooga only scored 3 in the third, so it was over in the first. But they had 45 points in the first half. This game was done.
Yeah, they it was done for from really the get go, and just overall good game for Tennessee. But again, they just didn't super impress me because it is an FCS school. So yeah. Oklahoma State, number 17, Oklahoma State hosted South Dakota State. Oklahoma State winning 44-20. South Dakota State, this is your defending FCS champions right here. So if you really want to tell me, people always tell me whenever I shit on the FCS. A lot of people will tell me that like oh well, FCS teams can compete with the best FBS teams. No, they can't. No, they can't. This is your defending FCS champion getting depantsed by not even a team that might not even make the playoff this year, Oklahoma State. They got depantsed by them 44-20. So don't tell me that the best FCS teams can beat the best FBS teams. It's just not gonna fucking happen. Period. They might beat some of the worst FBS teams, but they aren't competing at the top here. So, but anyways, it was a good game for Oklahoma State. I mean, South Dakota State definitely gave them a decent challenge for again for an FCS school. That's good to see. Bowman throwing 25 for 34, 3 touchdowns, 267 yards. really, really good game through the air for Oklahoma State. Defense looked pretty good. I wasn't too impressed by them. Again, that's also due to the level of competition that they were playing. But, it wasn't a bad game for Oklahoma State. They had a nice win here, and yeah, that's all I can say about them.
Yeah, it's a really good win. I mean, like you said, they're the South Dakota State, the defending FCS champion. And I mean, I'd say losing by 24 to a top 25 FBS team is a respectable performance for him. I don't remember how the spread was looking, but I'm assuming Oklahoma State covered. But
Yeah, Oklahoma State was favored 12.5. So yeah, they definitely
they
covered.
more than covered. But that's a good performance from Oklahoma State. I mean, anytime your quarterback's throwing for over 250, let alone 260 yards and 3 touchdowns with no picks is it's really good work.
Yeah, they looked very, very solid. Against again the defending FCS champion. But again, it's a different level of play, the FCS to the FBS. It really truly is. Ohio State hosted Akron. Ohio State winning 52-6. First of all, I just want to give credit to Akron's quarterback. He took an absolute fucking beating in this game. In the second half, especially. Just Sawyer was pounding him every fucking play. After he released the ball, or even before he released the ball, he was just pounding him. And that kid's tough as nails. But OSU looked good in the second half. That first half, though, Akron was in the game. They were completely in the game going into halftime. It was 17-3. The offense was not rolling like I thought they would be, but then that second half rolled around and they just kept piling it on. And again, it is a MAC school, so I don't expect them to beat Ohio State, who on paper might have the best roster all around, but or at least the most talented roster all around, I should say, because you got Ryan Day as your coach still, but. Yeah, I wasn't impressed with Ohio State in the second half, or not in the second half, in the first half. And you had to have your starters playing to start the second half, where a lot of teams had their starters sitting in the in the second quarter still. So Ohio State did look good, like I said in that second half, but they definitely have a lot of things they got to iron out this year.
I mean, it sucks to see Travion Henderson only have 8 carries for 65 yards, but I mean, he still averaged 8.1 a carry with, a long of 21. So that's I'd say it's still a decent performance, but like you said, the fact that they had to have their starters out after the second half was kind of a oh shit moment maybe for them. Like, maybe they got to play up, and then obviously they ended up winning the game by 46 points, so it wasn't the biggest deal, but at the end of the first quarter, for it to only be 7-3, I think you got to kind of give Akron a little bit of credit.
Yeah, Akron did play a fairly good first half. They were kind of just in it, and then it just kind of got away from them, and it is what it is. Number 4, Texas hosted Colorado State. Texas winning 52-0. Texas is back. I've been saying it, for the last, year plus now. Quinn Ewers, looking absolutely phenomenal. He looked really good. 20 for 27, 260 yards, 3 touchdowns. He did throw a pick, but it really didn't matter. The defense looked good. Again, this is a not good Colorado State team at all, so I don't put too much stock into either side of the ball's performance, but they look good. And if Quinn Ewers can keep up that level of performance that he had, I think Texas could definitely give Georgia a run for the money in the SEC. I still would pick Georgia in that game, but I think Texas very, very well could be a big contender for Georgia this year.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you score a lot of points and pitch a shutout, it's looked at as a very good game for the winner. But like you said, this isn't a very good Colorado State team, so it's not the very best gauge. So we'll see next week, or this coming week rather, when they go and play in the Big House against Michigan. So I think that's going to be a very good test for this team. And granted, I do think Texas is going to win that game. It's, like I just said, it's a test, and it's a big test. The Big House it's a daunting place to play.
Yeah, and the way Michigan's defense looked, it's going to be a challenge for that offense for Texas. I don't think their defense is going to have to worry too much though against Michigan, but we'll get there. Number 19, Miami went on the road to Florida, and they win 41-17 in a hostile environment. Cam Ward looked absolutely phenomenal. I mean, he might be the best quarterback in college football this year. He definitely had a Heisman type of game. 26 for 35, 385 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Mario Cristobal didn't, fuck up. He coached a smart game. And that was the one thing I thought. Okay, well, if Miami loses, it's going to be because of Mario Cristobal. He didn't make any stupid coaching mistakes, so we're good there. But man, Miami looked really, really good. Cam Ward, like I said, he was the best quarterback available in the transfer portal, and I don't know how anyone out besides Miami got him. But yeah, he looked really, really good. Definitely staked his claim for the Heisman this year.
Yeah, I mean, throwing for almost 400 yards in Florida is crazy. I mean, granted, you had the one pick, which, it's week one, so give him a little break, get the rust out. But again, you had 3 touchdowns, and you're 15 yards off of 400. That's a ridiculous performance from Cam Ward. It doesn't matter what Mario Cristobal does at that point when your quarterback's putting stats up like that.
Yeah, he looked so good, and yeah, Mario Cristobal couldn't fuck up a game like that from Cam Ward. Number 5, Alabama hosted Western Kentucky. Bama winning 63-0 here. I think I'm gonna have to walk back a little bit what I said about Kalen DeBoer. I think he might be ready to coach in the SEC. I mean, again, it's Western Kentucky, so I can't put too much stock into this. But Alabama looked pretty solid, especially on offense. Milroe, 7 for 9 and 200 yards. 7 completions and he goes 200 yards, and 3 touchdowns, by the way. So, and that's their leading passer in that game. So that just tells you how stacked that this Alabama offense is. The defense looked good. Like they held Finley to just 92 yards and 18 completions on 31 attempts and 2 picks. That secondary at Alabama looks absolutely phenomenal. I mean, they were ball hawking all game long. I'm actually surprised they only had 2 picks in that game.
You said it. That defense was looking crazy out there. But again, having your best passer have 7 of 9, and you had of those 7, 3 of them went for touchdowns, and you had 200 total yards on 7 completions. That's an efficient offense right there. And again, when your defense is playing that well, and like you said, despite only having 2 picks, which definitely could have had more, you just sit there and it's like, is this Alabama team really going to be this good post Saban? Like, was it Nick Saban or was it just Alabama in general? Like, not to discredit Nick Saban in any way, but like, holy shit, that was, it's Western Kentucky, but post Saban era was kicked off with the bang.
Yeah, it looked really, really good, and I'm surprised they actually were able to pitch a shutout. But maybe I gave Western Kentucky in the preview a little bit too much credit, because they were a fairly solid team last year. They just did not look good against Bama. But maybe we'll see. Maybe maybe this was just a week one sort of deal. So, yeah, the first couple weeks of the season, I really do not put a lot of stock in unless you're playing real opponents. So yeah, kind of just you gotta kind of give it a minute. Number 6, Ole Miss hosted Furman, and Jackson Dart, man, 5 touchdowns on 22 completions, 418 yards, and he had a touchdown on the ground as well. Um, yeah, he and Cam Ward are like, I think, the top 2 quarterbacks this year, for sure. I mean, this Ole Miss offense is absolutely insane. The offensive line looked great. Again, it is a FCS school in Furman, so the level of competition isn't good, but they looked like a very just solid unit altogether. Individual performances looked good just because of the fact that they aren't playing great talent, but that offensive line just gelled so well. Jackson Dart had all day to throw the ball. Again, level of competition that they're playing against, but they moved as a unit, and it was beautiful watching this Ole Miss offensive line run, and the defense looked good too. They looked really solid. Again, FCS school, not a good FCS school by any means either. Being paid to lose to Ole Miss, but yeah, Ole Miss looked really good. Jackson Dart also staking his claim for the Heisman.
Yeah, that was a ridiculous performance. Only 5 incompletions. You threw 27 pass attempts, so you threw almost 30 attempts, and to have only 5 incompletions, as well as throwing over 400 yards and averaging 15 and a half yards per throw. That's just a ridiculous performance. It's like he's playing the game.
Yeah, he put up video game numbers. I mean,
He really
again,
did.
again, it is Furman. It's an FCS school that's really bad, but man, that was some video game performance right there. That was easy mode on college football 25.
I mean, even Ole Miss's backup quarterback was 7 for 16 and had 111 yards and averaged 6.9 nice yards per completion with a touchdown. So their backup threw for 100 yards.
Yeah, it was just an insane game, all around. Um, but yeah, Jackson Dart looks really good, and I called it before the season started too. Like, Jackson Dart is gonna be a Heisman contender this year, I think, and he's gonna lead this Ole Miss offense all season long with performances like this. He'll put up video game numbers all year. Doesn't matter the defense. He has a ton of talent to throw to as well, and if that offensive line could just stay gelled together like that all year, Ole Miss is going to go far this year. Number 18, Kansas State hosted UT Martin. Again, who the fuck is that guy? But Kansas State winning 41-6 in this one. Kansas State looked good. I don't necessarily know if they're still going to be, the top dog in the Big 12 this year, but I think they can definitely, mount a challenge this year to be in that Big 12 championship game. But yeah, Johnson had a fairly solid game, 14 for 21, 153 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he did throw a pick. But more importantly, DJ Giddens, man, on the ground, no touchdowns in this one, but 13 carries, 124 yards. Just really good, solid day for him on the ground. He was kind of just workhorsing this Kansas State offense, and good all around performance for Kansas State. Defense looked solid. Again, it is UT Martin. It is an FCS school, but still, individual performances looked good.
Yeah, I mean, it's a 35-point win on paper. That's going to look good regardless of who you're playing. I mean, yeah, it's to nobody's school. You're probably paying to, lose that bad. But, it's a win, and a win's a win. And at this point, like you said, Texas and Oklahoma out of the Big 12 picture. It's right there for the taking. All they have to do is keep winning games, and they could be there at the end of the season challenging Oklahoma State or whoever else is there, Utah, for the Big 12.
Yeah, they got some work to do. Mostly on the offensive side, I would say. Just not they didn't have a bad performance offensively. I'll put it at that. there's just some things that I saw, especially just from the offensive line, that just need to be tweaked. Just not anything serious. There aren't any major problems like this next team that we're going to talk about on the offensive line, but there weren't any great things either. Um, Number 9, Michigan hosted Fresno State. Michigan winning 30-10. Davis Warren and Alex Orji, they were doing this 2 QB system, and very rarely does a 2 QB system work, especially in college football. And I mean, you never see it in the NFL because it would never work in the NFL. But Davis Warren, 15 for 25, 118 yards and a touchdown. He also did throw a pick in this game. He was not impressive at all. But even more less impressive was the offensive line from Michigan. I mean, you have 5 brand new starters, so I get it, but they didn't look good. They were getting bold. They were getting bullied by Fresno State's defensive line, who's good, but undersized compared to what Michigan's going to face most of this year, and so if you're getting bullied by slightly smaller guys than what you're normally going to face this year, that worries me a ton. Edwards looked horrible. Mullings, however, looked phenomenal. We gotta bench Edwards. Mullings was a lot better on the ground. 15 carries, 92 yards. Edwards did not look good at all in this game. If he could learn how to cut back, he'd be great. But he just does not cut back anymore. So. Yeah, Colston Loveland, phenomenal game receiving-wise. 8 receptions, 87 yards, and a touchdown in this one as well. But, Michigan's defense, elite still. Kind of just picking up right where they left off. I mean, they have more starters, obviously, returning on that side of the ball than on the offense. Mason Graham had a phenomenal game defensively. Will Johnson was getting picked on all game, but then he finally had an interception later in the game, and that kind of just sealed it with that pick six, 86 yards on that pick six as well. One other thing that's good for Michigan is I think they found their kicker. They just found Jake Moody 2.0 with Zavada nailing 2 50-plus yard field goals. So, really, really solid performance for special teams for Michigan. Defensively, like I said, looked good. Offensively, though, they're going to struggle a lot, especially against Texas this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, the QB play was not good at all, but Donovan Edwards also not good. And I mean, part of that I'm going to give credit to the just really abysmal play from the offensive line. But, Kal-El Mullings, like you said, 15 carries, 92 yards, averaging 6.1 yards a carry with a long of 21 yards. On top of kick returns. So he had 3 kick returns for 74 yards, so he's averaging almost 25 yards per kick return and with a long of 27 yards. This dude is crazy good. And without him, he didn't score at all. But again, without him running for 92 yards, they're not getting in position for Loveland to get their touchdown or Edwards to get their touchdown. Obviously, with Will Johnson having an 86-yard pick six, Mullings doesn't have anything to do with that. But, QB's got to pick it up if they want to compete.
Yeah, Michigan does not have a QB. Orji did not look too good. I don't know if you watched much of that game, but he threw a ball probably 5 yards short of his receiver. The ball landed 5 yards short. It was awful throw. And his receiver, he didn't even look mad. He just looked like he wasn't shocked. So that just tells you how bad Alex Orji is, to the point where his teammates in week 1 already aren't even mad that he's making terrible throws. They're just not, fazed by it really. They're just like, yep, this is fucking normal. Sort of deal. And it just did not look good for Michigan, especially on the offensive side. Defensive side, again, looked good. There were some mistakes that can be easily fixed, but they got the OG of that defense that they've been running for the last 2 years as defensive coordinator now. So That definitely helps. It's the same defense as the last few years, and you got a lot of guys that did return, and some guys that stepped right in, starting for the first time on that defense, and they look good as well. So Michigan's going to have their hands full though this weekend. I think the defense will be able to keep them in the game, but the offense is the the question mark. Number 3, Oregon hosted Idaho, and this game was very weird. Okay, so Oregon wins 24-14, but if you just look at the box score, and look at the statistics, Oregon had 487 total yards of offense to Idaho's 217, but they only win by 10. Like the box score tells you they should have won by at least 30 points in this game, and they only win it by 10. I don't get it. It was just a weird game. A lot of 3 and outs for Idaho, but Idaho's defense was able to keep Oregon at bay, which was very, very surprising. Um, the receivers did not look well. They looked good, but they just recovered very, very well all game, and Idaho coming up with a lot of big stops. Again, this is FCS school doing this to Oregon, so I think Oregon might be a little bit overrated, and certainly when we get to the rankings, we'll see that. But yeah, just a weird game. Again, almost 500 yards of total offense for Oregon, and they only win by 10 when they more than doubled Idaho's total yards of offense. Very, very weird. But Dylan Gabriel, 41 for 49, 380 yards, 2 touchdowns. Yeah, just good game statistically for Oregon. Just scoreboard was just so weird.
Yeah, this was a shock to me because every time I checked the game, I was like, "There's no way it's that close. There's no way it's that close." And yeah, sure enough, it was this close. It's just like you said, there's no way that the score should be this close, and it was. So either Oregon's offense has to figure it out, or Idaho's defense is crazy good.
Yeah, I honestly don't know. I mean, they put up video game stats and they only win by 10. It's just so strange. Number 20, Texas A&M hosted number 7 Notre Dame, and this might have been game of the weekend. There's another game that we'll get to shortly that might challenge for that, but Notre Dame, Kyle Field, one of the top 5 toughest places to play for any visiting team, and they get the job done 23-13. Notre Dame just absolutely solid. Defense looked really, really good. Whatever Notre Dame's doing, whatever Marcus Freeman's doing to get these defensive recruits and these guys from the portal, it's fucking working because Notre Dame's defense looked phenomenal in this game. It was a low-scoring game up until late in the fourth quarter. But both these teams, A&M overrated as always. Wiegman went 12 for 30 and 100 yards and 2 picks. Riley Leonard had a good game. 18 for 30, 158 yards. A&M's defense looked really good too. I got to give credit to their defense. They looked really good. But yeah, Notre Dame, to do what they did in a easily top 5 hardest place to play in for a visitor in college football, to get away with a win and a double-digit win over Texas A&M, very, very impressive game. It was looking just at the win probability up until the third quarter, it was just bouncing back and forth between A&M and Notre Dame, and then it just kind of creeped up to Notre Dame towards the end of the game. But solid performance from Notre Dame defensively, and honestly, because of how easy the rest of Notre Dame's schedule is outside of USC. They declared themselves as maybe not even just a playoff team, but maybe as a title contender, because that defense looks amazing.
Yeah, you said it, and I cannot preach it enough. You went into College Station and won by double digits. Yes, it was only 10 points, but you held Texas A&M to 13 points. and you scored 23, so you still won in one of the most toxic environments. And yeah, like you said, that defense just might be good enough for them to not only make the playoffs, but contend for a national championship again.
Yeah, I mean, if Riley Leonard can pick it up, I mean, obviously last year he had the season-ending injury, so he didn't get to, finish the season the way he would have wanted. And so, I think he's still just trying to get a feel back for just playing football at a, a high level again. But if he can pick it up and that offense can pick it up, Notre Dame's going to be fucking scary this year. I tell you what, that defense looked absolutely phenomenal. And again, the only other tough team that they play this year is USC, and I say tough because, man, what a game that was. But we'll get to that soon. Number 21, Arizona hosted New Mexico. Arizona winning 61-39 in this one. Fafita had a really good game. 19 for 31, 422 yards, 4 touchdowns, and a pick. Yeah, really, both these teams' offenses looked really solid all around. Defense did not show up for either team. And, I mean, New Mexico, you kind of expect that. But, yeah, Arizona's defense did not look good either. But that offense, man, they looked really fucking good. Again, New Mexico's, you don't expect a whole lot of great defense out of them. But, yeah, I was very impressed with Arizona's offense. Just that defense did not look good at all.
Yeah, defense was non-existent in this game. There was 100 total points scored in this one. But yeah, McMillan had a hell of a game along with Fafita. I mean, he had all 4 touchdown receptions and had 304 yards on 10 receptions to go along with it. So 40% of his receptions went for touchdowns, and he's averaging about 30 yards per reception. That's a ridiculous stat line.
Yeah, he looked really good, plain and simple. Just all around, really good game for Arizona offensively. Just, yeah, defense did not show up. I forgot about the Thursday games here, so we're going to backtrack real quick before we hit to Sunday and Monday's games. But NC State, number 24 NC State, hosted Western Carolina. They win 38-21. NC State did not do well. They kind of surprised me with their performance. They went into the half tied 14-14. They were able to pull out the win, obviously, but against a not good Western Carolina team, there's some question marks for NC State, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Offense didn't really get rolling until the second half, and even then they didn't look as good as I was expecting them to be. There's a lot they can iron out, though, for sure. I mean, it's a long season, and it's not like there's anything that's an immediate, like, there's no way they're going to fix it this season, like, Michigan's offensive line. I don't think they're going to fix that this season. But, they just need to make a lot of adjustments, and I think they'll be all right. But, my sleeper for the ACC this year might not be as big of a sleeper as I thought they might be.
Yeah, this was a very disappointing performance from NC State. I mean, going into the fourth quarter and you're down 21-17 as a top 25 team to a pretty much no-name school. That's very concerning, if you ask me. I mean, granted, they did end up scoring 21 points in the fourth quarter to win the game by 17 points. But it shouldn't take 21 consecutive points in the fourth quarter to win a game against one of these no-name schools as a top 25.
No, it shouldn't. And like I said, there's a lot they need to fix, but it's not like anything that's impossible to fix for them. Number 11, Missouri hosted Murray State. Missouri winning 51-0. I mean, I got no complaints. They kind of just really left off where they were last year. A very good team offensively. Defense, very good as well. Obviously, I think their offense is a lot better than their defense. Solid all-around performance from them. Again, it is Murray State, so it's an FCS school, so no one really cares. The level of competition isn't good, but Brady Cook, he cooked in this game. But 20 for 31, 228 yards and a touchdown. Yeah, solid game from him.
Yeah, this was a game that I was watching personally, and it was just like holy crap. Like I thought at some point Murray State might score, but no, this defense just kept keeping them out and keeping them away. And I mean, even threw in some scores there. It was a phenomenal performance from Mizzou. I'm excited to see where they go.
Yeah, I think, I don't know if they're necessarily ready to take on Texas or Bama or Georgia, but they'll be good this year. I can promise you that much. Number 22, Kansas hosted Lindenwood, winning 48-3. Kansas, solid game all around, both sides of the ball. They had a pick six in the second quarter that definitely helped. The offense looked okay. Jalen Daniels, 9 for 15, 148 yards and a touchdown. He did throw a pick in this one as well. But more importantly, Devin Neal, solid game on the ground from him. 8 carries and 112 yards and 2 touchdowns on 8 carries. Averaging well over 10 yards a carry there. Phenomenal. Again, it is Lindenwood. It is FCS. But, very solid game all around from Kansas. I got no complaints. Minor things, but, nothing that you can't fix.
Yeah, my only complaint is I'd like to not see a pick from my QB, but other than that, like you said, really good game from Kansas, even if it is against an FCS opponent.
Yeah, solid all the way around. Number 12, Utah hosted Southern Utah, winning 49-0. Cam Rising played some football finally, and he looked incredible. 10 for 15, 254 yards, 5 touchdowns. 5 touchdowns on 10 completions. 250 yards on 10 completions. Absolutely incredible. I know it is Southern Utah. It's an FCS school. That's not good at all. But, man, Utah's offense looks really good. Cam Rising, I would say, too, a Heisman favorite this year because I think you'll see when they play some actual teams. Cam Rising can fucking throw the ball. Let me fucking tell you. He makes NFL pass after NFL pass after NFL pass. And the defense looked good too. Again, it is Southern Utah, so you got to take it with a grain of salt. But they looked really, really good on both sides of the ball. And like I said, Cam Rising, 10 completions and he threw 254 yards and 5 touchdowns on that.
Yeah, this is about as good as you could have expected from him coming off injury, right? Half of your passes went for touchdowns. Just ridiculous. Again, video game-esque numbers from one of these quarterbacks that we've seen this weekend. College football is back, and holy hell, have we seen some performances.
Yeah. He was on pace to throw for 10 touchdowns in that game before they pulled him. It's insane. He only played the first half, and just a good game for Utah. Cam Rising, he's, again, one of the best quarterbacks in college football. I don't think he's Cam Ward level, but he might be. Again, Cam Ward played someone that's actually somewhat real. So, but we'll see how this season shakes out. Friday we had number 16 Oklahoma hosting Temple. Oklahoma winning 51-3. Oklahoma looked good. It is a very, very bad Temple program. So obviously you expect Oklahoma to win a game like this. Arnold had a pretty solid game, 17 for 25, 141 yards and 4 touchdowns. But I'm not putting a lot of stock into this. Oklahoma looked good. Both sides of the ball looked good. There weren't a lot of mistakes, but again, it's a very, very bad Temple team. So I can't put a lot of stock into it. But again, I didn't see a lot of mistakes from Oklahoma, so there's a lot of positives in this game. Just again, you can't take it all too seriously with the you know the level of competition that they're playing.
Yeah, my thought is if Jackson Arnold can actually get more yardage out of his throws, so when you had 17 completions for only 141 yards, and you're averaging just over 5.5 per completion, and yeah, you had 4 touchdowns. That's I feel like that's more on the receivers than him at this point. He's
Yeah, and it really is because like his yards per attempt was also very very low. He was doing a lot of dink and dunk passes, so it wasn't necessarily just the receivers weren't getting a lot of yak, which I mean they weren't. The receivers definitely weren't getting a lot of yak, but his yards per attempt was very very low, and that's I think that's by design. I don't think that offense is necessarily trying to throw the deep ball all too much, but um, yeah, I would like to see more yardage out of him per attempt. That's for sure. So Sunday, and this was a very good game, one of the best games of the weekend. Like I said, it's between this game or the Notre Dame A&M game. Number 23 USC beating number 13 LSU in Las Vegas. USC winning 27-20. And there was a lot of question marks for both these teams. It's at the quarterback position especially coming into this game, and I think we found the answer that yeah, both these guys are going to be pretty damn good. Miller Moss, he might be the best quarterback in the Big Ten. He was making NFL level throws all game long to his receivers, and he's got a lot of good weapons to throw to. But yeah, Miller Moss looked incredible. 27 for 36, 378 yards. He only threw for 1 touchdown, but again, he was making NFL level throw after NFL level throw all game long, and yeah, we didn't really have this conversation, but there's a lot of talk about who's going to be the best quarterback in the Big Ten, and it might just be Miller Moss. He looked phenomenal. On the other side for LSU, Garrett Nussmeier, really solid game from him too. Obviously last year he sat behind Jaden Daniels, and he comes in, he throws 30 for 39, 308 yards and 2 touchdowns in this one. He did throw a pick though, and it was later in the game, and it really did cost LSU because they were, I believe, at the time of that pick, it was uh, no, USC had just gone up 20-17, and then they give the ball back. So right back to USC. So I mean that kind of really put the nail in the coffin right there for LSU. But good game though still for LSU. The offense did look good. The defense looked good too. And speaking of defenses looking good, USC new defensive coordinator comes in, different scheme. And they got guys that aren't afraid to tackle anymore, because I think that was the biggest point of USC's, or biggest problem with USC's defense last year is they could not tackle at all. They had guys afraid to tackle. Now you got guys stepping up into the box, linebackers willing to step up in and try and get the running back down behind the line to gain. And yeah, USC's defense looked phenomenal in this game. And that was very surprising. And like I said, Miller Moss, probably the best quarterback in the Big Ten, at least the best in Week 1.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because both of us were kind of shitting on USC when we did the Big Ten preview, but they might just prove us wrong and make us eat our words here. This was a very good win for them against, a traditionally tough LSU opponent. Granted they may have been, not as phenomenal as late, but for USC to go to Vegas and beat LSU, it's a great win for them. And again, their defense only gave up 20 points. That's a win in all categories for this USC team. And they might not be good enough to make a run for the Big Ten title, but some of these Big Ten teams might have to watch out for USC now.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, the way USC played, especially on the defensive side of the game, the ball. I'm looking at the Michigan game in Week 4. I'm like, at first I was like, yeah, we'll probably win that game, and now after Sunday I was like, man, I don't fucking know. I don't fucking know anymore. Because like last year, the way to beat USC was just to outscore them, and because it was very easy because their offense would put up video game numbers. If you had a somewhat decent defense, get a couple stops, you could easily outscore USC, and that's how you would beat them last year. But now, yeah, that offense picked up really right where it left off. I mean, Miller Moss, like I said, phenomenal quarterback play from him. And, the defense can actually play defense. So that was incredible. And then last night, Florida State, man, number 10, hosting Boston College. They lose 28-13, and and Boston College, yeah, it is fucking embarrassing. And DJU, I'm sorry, there's a reason why you're at your third school. He did not have a good game. He doesn't step up in the pocket. He doesn't move out of the pocket when he's under pressure, and he just looked awful. The offensive line looked terrible, and you have a lot of guys that came over from Bama and some other SEC schools on that offensive line, and they did not look good at all. They're getting, and Boston College defensive front is a lot smaller than these guys, and they were pushing these guys back like it was like they were playing against the fucking FCS team. That offensive line for Florida State's in big fucking trouble. The defense looked okay. They gave up some big yardage plays when they didn't need to. They took stupid penalties late in the game. And yeah, it just all around was not a good game for Florida State. And Boston College had a chance to run up the score inside 2 minutes to go. They were in the red zone and they were just taking knees. So that's more embarrassing, I think, for Florida State, is the fact that Boston College went down into the red zone and then started taking knees. Like, that just tells you, yeah, we're just taking pity on you. And yeah, Florida State, they're in big trouble. Obviously, they aren't ranked anymore, and we'll get into the rankings here real soon. But yeah, absolutely awful performance from Florida State. And Boston College, I was impressed. They got a new head coach this year. I forget the fucker's name, and I don't feel like looking it up right now. But I was impressed by them. Both sides of the ball looked good. And, like I said, their defensive front was bullying Florida State's much bigger offensive line. And when you're doing that's you're doing things right.
Yeah, this was just atrocious for Florida State. This is, again, preseason top 10 team. They lost the last week to Georgia Tech. But, we gave that up to, the jet lag and traveling overseas and all of that. You come back at home, no less, and you just shit the bed against Boston College. At this point, Florida State fans, if you can't beat Georgia Tech and Boston College, buckle up for one of the rough seasons this year. You guys aren't going anywhere.
Yeah, and this is the team I wanted to get to about what I said with Nick Saban said about the portal. Sometimes you get it right, and sometimes you don't. And if you don't get it right, you're shit out of luck. And that's Florida State. Last year they hit the portal, and they were good. This year they hit the portal, and now they've completely shit themselves. And it's just one of those things with the portal. Sometimes you nail it right, sometimes you don't, and that's just what you're going to see now with the way the portal is. When you have guys traveling from school to school to school each year, and that's why, I hate it, but that's just the way it is. So, it is what it is, but yeah, Florida State's in big, big trouble this year. First team since 2008 to be preseason ranked in the top 10. to completely be not ranked and start the season out 0-2 since Clemson in 2008. Tells you how not common that is. So yeah. So we're gonna go over the rankings real quick, just because we just want to go over them. I mean, I still don't like rankings until at least week 4, but it is what it is. But here we go. Number 25, Clemson dropped 11 spots down to number 25. Surprisingly, they're still ranked, but again, they did play Georgia, so it counts as a good loss, I guess. NC State stays at 24. Georgia Tech moves into the rankings. They're 2-0. They're at number 23. And then Louisville also moved in the rankings at number 21. And then Iowa going up 4 spots Louisville's at 22. And then Iowa is at 21, moving up 4 spots. Arizona moved up 1 spot to 20. Kansas moved up 3 to 19. LSU dropping 5 to go to 18. Kansas State going up 1 to 17. Oklahoma State 16. Oklahoma 15. Tennessee, all those schools moved up 1 spot. Tennessee, they're at 14. USC moving up 10 spots. The biggest mover forward, the biggest mover backwards was obviously Clemson at 11, but USC moving up 10 spots to 13. Miami up 7 to 12. Utah up 1 to 11. Michigan drops 1 to number 10. Mizzou up 2 to number 9. Penn State stays at 8. Oregon dropped 4 spots to number 7. Ole Miss stays at 6. Notre Dame moves up 2 spots to number 5. Then you have Bama, Texas, OSU, who received 5 first-place votes, and then Georgia getting 57 first-place votes, and they stay at number 1. So, yeah, very interesting. Good to see Georgia Tech ranked for the first time in a very long time. And a lot of these, teams moving up. I'm surprised Michigan didn't drop more, but again, I would have also started the season with Michigan ranked at number 16 personally, just because, again, I'm a Michigan fan. I'm a diehard Michigan fan, but yeah, I wouldn't have put us in the top 10 at all to start the year. I still wouldn't put us in the top 10 now. You got any thoughts on the rankings, though?
Yeah. I think Michigan and Oregon should have dropped more. Especially Oregon. I think losing 4 places wasn't enough. You beat an FCS team by 10 points as a top 3 team at the time. That's embarrassing.
Yeah, it is embarrassing. It did not look good. But again, they did put up video game numbers, so maybe that's why. But that was just such a weird game, man. But yeah, I would definitely drop Michigan more. I also still think Oklahoma's too high at 15. I would definitely put Oklahoma State over OU, personally. Oklahoma State beat up. I mean, honestly, I think San Diego State could probably beat Temple. That's how bad Temple is in the FBS. And Oklahoma State had a more impressive win to me, plain and simple. They had to. I think they played a much tougher team. LSU, I think they dropped a little bit too much. I think they're better than number 18, but yeah, not the greatest of performances either. And then receiving votes, you had Texas A&M, Boston College, Boise State, Iowa State, and Memphis, Nebraska as well. Real quickly with Boise State, let me pull up their score real quick because they have a running back who had a phenomenal game in week 1 here. Let me pull that game up against Georgia Southern. Boise State was they were down 37 36 in the fourth quarter at one point. And then yeah, after that, Jonty, dude, what a fucking phenomenal game from him. 6 touchdowns in this game, 267 yards, 20 carries in that game for Boise State. Yeah, they looked really good. They go from they travel to Georgia Southern. They got mosquitoes that are massive in the massive heat that they're not used to playing in at all in the Mountain West, and yeah, they looked really really good, and yeah, everyone says that they're probably going to be the group of five team that gets in, and with a performance like that from their running back, I think that's possible.
Yeah, I mean, again, we keep talking about video game stats, and 6 touchdowns from a running back is a literal video game stat. You know, that's playing Madden on rookie mode. It's ridiculous. You average 13.4 yards per carry with a long of 77 yards. Absurd.
Yeah, it was nuts. That game was just nutty. Um, video game stats for sure, but yeah, very very good game from Boise State though, especially in an environment that they're not used to playing, and they're not used to playing in that sort of a temperature. And again, they might be the group of five school that gets into the playoff this year. So, yeah, we'll just have to see. But yeah, that's gonna do it for us today. Thursday, we will be doing previews for obviously NFL Week 1 and college football Week 2 for the top 25. Mike will be joining us on Thursday's episode, of course. He just wants to join us for NFL Week 1, and I don't blame him at all for that. We will obviously be starting that episode while Thursday night's game is going on. We're gonna kind of pseudo preview it. It's just gonna be during the game, and we'll give our opinions on the game before it even starts, or what we would think before the game even starts. So yeah, rate, review, subscribe, help us out. Let us know what you guys want to see more. I finally got us a Twitter, so go follow us on there. Andrew and Ian Show. Keep sharing the podcast, guys. We're going to keep growing this thing. Thank you guys so much again for listening, and we will see you guys on Thursday.